Moving right along with the show, Jordan, we got to talk about recruiting. And this is something that we touched on probably far more than we wanted to in this past post-game live immediately following the Citadel game. But let's face it, there wasn't much to talk about when it comes to the game, and the conversation quickly moved to recruiting. Jordan, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Is Clemson beginning to have a recruiting problem when it comes to high school recruits?
I think the answer is yes and no. I think I say yes. Well, let me start with no. I think you have phenomenal recruiters on this staff. I don't think this staff sucks at recruiting. I think this is a very good group of coaches that build really good relationships and attract really, really talented football players. So I want to get that out there. Yeah, there are probably things here or there they could do better, but I think you have a really, really strong recruiting staff overall. The yes comes in the second part, that the second newer part of recruiting. I should say newer is probably the wrong way to put it, because money has been involved in college football recruiting for a long time. But NIL, in this aspect, Clemson certainly has a problem. And we talked about it on the post-game live show. This university is not aligned when it comes to NIL. Whether it's from a lot of the blame is going on Dabo, and certainly he could be doing a lot better in that aspect. And as far as just as the face of the program promoting it, but this is a problem that's institutionally at its roots, the cause. Your fundraising apparatus, your booster program, your fundraising arm of the university and IPTE, and then you have the NIL component in the collective 110 Society. Those two are not coexisting very well, and I think that's really the issue that you're seeing. And from everything that's been talked about, rumored, change is coming. I don't think I think President Clements and Graham Neff, and Dabo himself are very aware of, the situation and what, how much, things need to change in order to make sure that you're able to land top talent in the future. So we'll see what those changes are. There's been reports that have come out during the week. I don't want to talk about it until we get more, real details. But the reality is you are behind, not just from a NIL dollar amount standpoint, but from a just your whole operation is behind, and that you need to correct that quickly, because we talked about it on Saturday. This recruiting class, you can't call it anything other than a failure. You lose 6 decommitments in one cycle. That's unheard of at Clemson, and especially when 4 of the 6 were top 100 kids. A 5th was your quarterback commit in this class. Like that can't happen.
No,
it can't happen.
It cannot, Jordan. And I think you kind of lay everything out really well when it comes to what is truly going on with recruiting in Clemson and the NIL tie-in that it is. Clemson, from a institutional standpoint, from a program standpoint, from a the powers that be at Clemson standpoint, right? All the way from the president to the AD to the head football coach. They have to get in a room and get aligned when it comes to this NIL deal. Clemson has not done a good enough job when it comes to NIL and raising funds and being all on the same page when it comes to how important NIL is in today's college football, in today's college sports, period. Clemson has done a poor job with messaging. They've done a poor job with getting their fan base to understand the importance of it. And that starts with Dabo Swinney, right? That starts with Graham Neff. That starts with President Clements, right? You mentioned all of those people because they're all integral parts of pushing out how important it is to be competitive in today's college football, in today's college sports. You have to contribute to NIL. And the money you contribute to IPTAY, that can't go to NIL. So getting people to understand that, I think, is part of the problem. Also tapping into your fan base that is not necessarily alumni is also something that Clemson needs to start getting better at. There's a huge Clemson fan base that did not go to Clemson. They're not Clemson alumni, but they believe in Clemson. They want Clemson to be successful as a football program, as a university, and tapping into that would go a long way. You talk about the 6 decommits so far this cycle. It's unheard of at Clemson. 4 of them were top 100 recruits, according to 24/7 Sports, right? It's bad. It can't be overstated how bad it has been in the 2025 class for Clemson. Clemson has currently the 30th overall class in the class of 2025, with 1 committed 5-star, 5 committed 4-stars, only 13 overall commits. It's not going to get it done. If you look at that overall 30th ranking when it comes to the overall class in both composite and in overall ranking, you got to go all the way back to 2009, 2010 to even be in the ballpark of that. Clemson or Dabo Swinney's first and second recruiting class were 36 and 27. So that 30 would be in the ballpark. Outside of that, Clemson's lowest ranking was 20, and that was in 2012. Being number 30, as we currently sit in the recruiting class of 2025, is unacceptable. We have a problem at Clemson. We have to start taking NIL seriously. We have to get into the ballpark of some of these universities. If we get into the ballpark, then you can sell all the extra stuff that Clemson does that some of the other universities, some of the other programs are not so great at. But if you're not even in the ballpark of some of these people, if you're $500,000 off, you're telling me that you would take a $500,000 pay cut in order to go do the same job at another company? Who in the chat's willing to raise their hand and be like, I'll take a $500,000 less to go do the same job at another company because X, Y, and Z? Nobody's doing that. Stop pretending like you would, because you wouldn't. So why do we expect these young athletes, these young high school players to do the same thing? I get it. I don't necessarily love where college football is right now. But at the end of the day, if Clemson wants to compete at the highest level, you got to start being better at some of this stuff. So, Jordan, how's Clemson right? How's Dabo Swinney? How does Clemson right the recruiting ship right now? Where we sit in this recruiting class of 2025, sitting at number 30, 13 commits, 6 decommits already in the class. Are there more to come? How do we right the ship? What are your answers?
Well, let's hope not, but wouldn't surprise me as far as the more decommits thing is concerned. But I mean, like I said, the way you fix it, I mean, you have to find that structure where the money that you're raising, like Clemson does not have a fundraising problem. Like they have a phenomenal fan support. That's one of the things that helped boost your football program over South Carolina's within the past decade. Is well, you have a smaller base to pull from, but the buy-in was 100%, was much better. And over the years, Clemson started passing South Carolina and giving every year. Like I've seen the numbers. Like it was pretty astonishing over the last decade. If you go look, South Carolina used to outgive Clemson like regularly. and now it's not anywhere close to that. And so I think like you have to be able to find ways to make sure that those streams of money are going where you need it to, and that starts with marketing, because the way the 110 Society has been marketed has been absolutely terrible. Like you rarely ever hear about them, and I've heard some pretty damning things about the leadership there too. So I don't want to get too in the weeds of that.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Jordan, but you're an alumni of Clemson University, correct? You graduated from Clemson University. We all know that,
yes,
right? I am not an alumni of Clemson University, but I did grow up a Clemson fan my entire life, right? And I heard Jason Priester ask this question over the past week or so. Have you ever received anything from the 110 Society? Whether it be an email, text message, hey, come support, blah, 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 whatever. Have you ever received anything from the 110 Society?
Maybe once or twice. Probably a message. Probably an email from President Clements. Back when, like, I can't even. I'd have to go and look, but I can't even think of one off the top of my head. But when it
second question, follow-up question.
Okay, I know where you're going with this.
How often do you receive something from IPTE?
Oh, Jesus, man! Like, it feels like every week.
How many unread IPTE emails do you have in your mailbox right now?
Dude, like, if I would pull it up right now, like it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and especially since I'm a young alumni, they bombard you because they want to get you start. They want to start you giving early. Like, it's a very and they give you discount. There's a whole discount package for so many years after you're moved from.
Clemson fan. I've never been an alumni. I've never been enrolled into Clemson as a student. I've just been a Clemson fan my entire life. I get emails from IPTE probably weekly.
Yes.
I have never, ever received an email or anything from the 110 Society. The only reason I know about the 110 Society is because I follow Clemson football. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know what the 110 Society was. That's what I'm trying to point out about Clemson and their NIL collectives.
And even when they were two collectives, when it was Dear Old Clemson and Tiger Impact, you've never heard from either of them. Like, so, and so when they consolidated, nothing changed.
Yeah, you would have thought that consolidating those two organizations into one would have resulted in a more robust, aggressive fundraising effort, but it hasn't. I've never received anything from the 110 Society, but I get stuff from IPTE all the time. And I'm not even a Clemson grad. And IPTE's hit me up all the time. So that's just my point, is that Clemson is losing the battle in their own fan base when it comes to raising NIL funds. And it's unacceptable. Clemson has been one of the most forward-facing universities when it comes to building a football program. When it came to building their $55 million football facility that they've renovated like 3 times since. They were one of the first to ever do something like that, to build a football-only facility. So my question is, why has Clemson been not forward-facing when it comes to NIL and the new challenges that college football presents? I don't understand it, because we've been so forward-facing in other aspects of college football that I just don't understand why we're not as forward-facing when it comes to NIL, when it comes to the new world of recruiting. Because high school recruiting and NIL, they just go hand in hand now. Like it or hate it, it doesn't really matter. It is what it is.
Yep. And it starts with messaging. I think first and foremost, The university is not aligned in its messaging on the importance of NIL. And some of that is the head coach's fault because he has made comments in the past. There's many in this fan base that have the mentality that NIL is the devil, and they're not going to, why spend any amount of money on that? Because we don't want kids that are coming here for money. And while I understand that, I don't think any of us like any of the drawbacks that have come from NIL and the things that have gotten really shady about it.
Let me preface what you just said, because this is how I feel as a fan, and this is just me personally. I don't want anybody coming to Clemson because of the sole fact of money.
Right. I'm with you.
It's okay for money to be a factor in their decision. We got to stop pretending like money and NIL opportunities being a factor in these high school players' decision is suddenly means that they're not Clemson material. Oh, they're not a Clemson man. They're not, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, money should 100% be a factor in their decision. Now, all of the other stuff should matter as well, right? Development, how well the school is, what opportunities they give me, the micro internships, the Paul journey, all of that stuff, right? That should matter as well. But we can't sit here and pretend like in the world of NIL that money's just not an issue and that they should pretend like it's not. It's football. If another school is offering $100,000 more a year, that's $400,000 over 4 years. You're telling me that you expect a kid to turn that down for a similar opportunity at another university? Come on, man. Let's be real. We got to get into the ballpark. You can ask them to take less, but it's got to be reasonable.
100%. And that's the problem. A great example of this is Georgia. Now, I know a lot of people like to think that, Georgia is just out here dropping bags left and right.
Right. Yeah.
Georgia competes in the NIL game, but they are not, contrary to popular belief, they are not just out here over, spending and dropping like multi-million-dollar deals for a bunch of kids. They do get kids at a discounted rate to a degree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the difference is their NIL packages are still competitive in the space. And obviously their proven track record. And that's where their proven track record of development, the winning the national championships, all the amenities and resources that they have make up that difference and get a kid to pick your school. Yeah.
That's when you can sell all your extra stuff in your program, right? You can sell Paul Journey. You can sell, the micro internships. You can sell all the extra stuff that you do that other universities aren't great at. But in order to even get to that conversation, you got to be in the ballpark. You have to be in the ballpark of the NIL deals. And that's where Clemson's lacking right now. And that's where institutionally we got to be better. And until we are, you're going to continue to see 6 decommits a class. You're going to continue to see the recruiting slip. Because why have we suddenly slipped from, the 8 to 12 range to all of a sudden we're 30? We ain't been 30 since 2009.
Yep.
We got to stop pretending like it doesn't matter. It does matter. And for a team that hangs its hat on high school recruiting, you can't be ranked 30th because you don't compete in the transfer portal as of yet. Now, Clemson may start pivoting to the transfer portal out of necessity, but as of yet, we don't. So if we're not going to compete in the transfer portal, we certainly can't be ranked 30th overall in recruiting.
Nope.
That's not going to work. That's going to get you to be in a full fringe bowl team in a couple years. And I know that's not what Clemson fans want to hear, but you got a couple recruiting classes down in the 30s, the 40s. You're going to be a mid-level ACC team pretty quickly. I'm just saying. That's my opinion.
Yep. 100%, man. And we're not here to like doom and gloom and say, but like they're at like this was the last thing that you wanted to happen.
Yeah.
And we're not surprised that Clemson lost commits in this class. Like I don't the days of Clemson going, multiple years with like 4 or 5 cycles without having a decommit. Those days are over. You're going to have kids flip for money. Like everybody is having kids.
Yeah. There's too much money in college football now.
Yeah.
And you can wave money in kids' faces now legally. So that's not, those days are over. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But the difference is when Georgia loses a kid, okay, yeah, that sucks. But they also have the cachet to go flip somebody of at least comparable quality from somebody else, or pull a kid or an uncommitted kid of comparable quality from somebody else. Like that's what the game. I mean, you're seeing it right now. It's been flip season basically this entire past month. Like just kids flipping 5-star bona fide #1 overall recruits flipping for $12 million NIL deals. Like, so I mean, it's happening all over the place. And I don't think Clemson is. I mean, obviously, we don't think that Clemson is ever going to be that kind of program where they can spend $10 million on a quarterback like that. No, you don't have the monetary resources for that. You don't have the alumni base. You don't have the support for that. Like that's a pipe dream. But you have to be able to be competitive in this space, and be able to not lose kids to Georgia Tech, like multiple top 100 kids to Georgia Tech, Duke, UNC. Like, you can't have that happen.